Hello everybody and welcome to the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series, a new road season starting here tonight at the Hockenheimring, where we've got an absolutely monster entry. Over 60 drivers entered to the series, over 50 of them are present here tonight in round 1 and 2 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan road series for 2025, including those among us here tonight. Edwin Forsland, who's off the back of winning the IndyCar series at the back end of 2024, two-time GT3 series champion. Lucas Lindqvist returns to the series as well, among a whole host of other names as well. We are very excited to be here once again. Myself, Ian O'Leary, Cam Roger taking you through the season with Hugo Luis behind the cameras here tonight. It's good to be back. GT3 racing camp, 2 weeks behind schedule, but this one is going to be worth waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a bit of a swap around of what cars we were going to be using for this series, but great to have the GT3s back. Haven't used these for a couple of years. They always create some really good racing, and we go to some interesting tracks as well. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to work. Of course, we have the two-race format returning with the inverted grid as well for the second race. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, we're starting here at the Hockenheimring for the Area81 Grand Prix. Daytona is coming up in 2 weeks' time, followed by Spa, Motegi and Sebring. I think Motegi is the one that really shouts out to me as an alternative, slightly odd track to go to, but the others are pretty synonymous with GT3 racing around the world, and all these drivers are going to know those circuits very, very well indeed. No championship standings to show you, of course, because it is only the first round of the season, but to explain the format a little bit more deeply, this is rounds 1 and 2, races 1 and 2 if you like. 12 laps for race 1, 29 for race 2. Generally we're going to be seeing about half an hour for the first race-ish. There's or about 20 minutes I should say. The limit is half an hour, and for the second race we've got about an hour, but the race, or we've got a limit of an hour I should say. The race should take about 45 to 50 minutes. It will be a laps based race each night, but there is a limit. We can't go on forever. The thing highlighted in yellow there, though, is the big point of contention. Reverse top 10 is the feature race this time round, as opposed to the top 20 that we had in the IndyCars. Just speaking to Linus then about the reactions to a top 20 invert for the IndyCar series. I thought as a spectator it was okay, but I get why the drivers would have thought that's a little bit too many. However, I do think this is a little bit of a different series, and getting into the top 10 out of 55 odd here today is actually going to be quite difficult to benefit from an invert.
Oh, it sure is. But the reason why this is really the case is because, especially in the Indy series, obviously the F4s that we had back in the day, we would end up with about 30 drivers. And then if we had 20 reversed, that was almost the whole field, by the time you're taking a few DNFs and that sort of thing. So that was pretty chaotic. And also those cars were a lot easier to overtake than what we see in these GT3s. So now if we did a reverse top 20 or even more than that, then it'd be very difficult for those actually fast drivers to get back through. And I think that'd be a little bit too unsporting. Obviously you want to add some action with the invert, but you also don't want to make it complete luck to those who get up to the front for the feature race and then get all the points. So it's a bit of a balancing act, and this is certainly going to be a tough one. Very, very tough series indeed for the inverted guys. So you have to be very fast, and so far we got Lucas Lindqvist, as you say, two-time champion, already going to the top in the qualifying session.
Yeah, and by a pretty significant margin as well. You'll be pleased to know it is a solo qualifying session, so everybody is able to get their laps in on their own without too much interruption. Otherwise it would be exceptionally busy out there on the circuit with just less than 9 minutes to go. They don't have a limit on the amount of laps though, so they should be fine in that regard. And just Hillestrup goes over the line here at 39.2 for him. He stays into the top 20. There is Evan Forsand. He is I don't. Do we call him a reigning champion or Lucas Lindqvist a reigning champion? I don't really know how this is going to work. But for the road series, he is a series reigning champion. This is so different though. Good to see him out here defending his crown in invert commas. But yeah, it's very different racing, and I'm expecting a very different grid, to be honest, and very different strong contenders compared to what we saw in the IndyCar series, to be honest.
but he's been showing some good speed, especially in the Oval Series in recent weeks. He's coming out fast already, P4 in this qualifying session as we only get to the halfway point in this session as well. Is he going to make a little bit of an improvement there as well? So he's looking very good, very confident at this moment in time, and he'll be able to, of course, take that in as all. Stråberg there goes around in P6 currently, a new name to us over the last couple of years, but certainly looking very fast so far.
Yeah, so there are a couple of names that will be unfamiliar to those of you who only watch the Oval Series, which is now in its playoff stage, by the way. We'll be live at 8 o'clock Central European time for the first round of 15 race in our Oval Series in 1 week's time. Very much looking forward to that. Oscar Johansson, meanwhile, on the circuit in 8th place, coming out of turns 2, 3 and 4. One of those overtaking chances, really, turn 2, but it's really set up for the run down towards the hairpin more than anything else. Here it is, the big stop. This is where all the action's going to be on lap 1, I would have thought. As he makes his way round, Henrik Lindorff just jumps in front of him, actually, and goes up into 8th place in the number 8 car. Hopefully, Lindorff can be at all the rounds this time round, and he can avenge his runners-up spot from the IndyCar Series. Don't forget, the Road Series to start off, or end off 2024, I should say, ended with Henrik Lindorff only 3 points off of the championship after he missed the final 2 rounds. Forsen just about gaining enough points to get the title by the narrowest of margins at Indianapolis at the end.
Yes, yes, indeed. It was a pretty crazy points affair, wasn't it? With, the driver leading the championship, not being at the final race, and just sitting there waiting to see what could happen. And what an effort it was from Edvin Forsen. He really had to battle through. Really had a lot of cars, like 20 odd cars, I think he had to overtake in that final race. So definitely a very interesting one with how that one worked out. I wonder how it's going to work out this time around, because points go to P30, which is still, even though we have 50 cars, so 20 odd cars miss out, but that's still a lot of places that get points, which means when we get to the final round, even having a bad day in P25 might just secure you a couple of points that you need for the championship. It's going to be a very interesting one with so many cars on the grid.
Yeah, you get 50 points for a race win, and then once you start to get outside the top 10 or so, it's 1 point per position effectively all the way down. So out of the top 10, excuse me, yeah, so because it's 30 who score points, so yeah, incrementally 1 point all the way down. Do you get a bonus point for pole position? It looks like Lucas Lindqvist is going to take that at the moment, to be honest. Marcus Bergfeldt is closest. He's half a second away, though, in the McLaren at the moment. This is a astonishing lap time from Lucas Lindqvist, and he's throwing a real marker down here for the rest of them to let's see if they can stay with him, and the early signs are that they can't. Adam Lindqvist now, or Lundqvist, that's not going to get confusing at all, is it? We get second by the looks of things, just ahead of Byfeldt through the final couple of corners now on board with the 105, just using a little bit of that curve on the left-hand side to open out this final corner and the run towards the front straight. That's quite a good line, actually. Over the line he goes, and it's a low 38, isn't improvement. It might just be, it is. He won't improve his place, but he will improve his time, and Lindqvist and Lundqvist will share the front row at the moment.
Here's Stråberg coming out the final corner, gets through it this time around. Last time we saw him spinning, gets a point 2. That's going to be a few places up there from P8. He's going to jump up the way to P4, so that's a really good improvement from him. Here's Oliver Hauksson-Vigersjö, of course, one of the drivers he talked about quite a lot in the IndyCar series as well. Unfortunately, the Nearly On Pace team, they were actually on the pace in the IndyCar series, but often they sort of chose the wrong strategy, so the pace didn't always come through for the race results that they would have wanted. P6, he is currently, that is a nice sort of time there as such, but he is just a 1 place improvement up to 5th.
Yeah. No tyre compounds to choose wrong, if you like, here. Although there is a threat of rain here tonight, I must inform you. Maybe we're going to see a bit of that, but yeah, you're right. I think the strategy maybe just took them away from the team's championship, which was won by Sim Race Sweden Pro, by the way. 75 points. When you consider they scored over 800, that's pretty close. And Nearly On Pace will be looking to avenge that maybe here this season. This is Robin Osland. Not sure he's done very much to his car, has he? Just got the traditional Corvette yellow going on. So plenty of different manufacturers up towards the front at the moment. Lindqvist out front, ahead of Lundqvist, Byfeld, Osland. And then I think Oliver Hagström figures you in fifth place. So there's a couple of McLarens up inside the top 5 at least. Through now into the final stadium section he goes. Robin Osland, as meanwhile Marcus Byfeld goes up to second. They're edging closer to Lucas Lindqvist. I just wonder how much time number 97 has left on the table yet, and whether he can go even quicker.
I certainly think he probably can. Maybe has the odd 10th here and there. So difficult to do. Gets an absolute perfect lap, but Osland loses the rear end coming out of the final corner with 2.5 minutes to go, and that will be it because doesn't have enough time to get around to do another lap. Here's Byfeld on to his final lap of the session as well. And looking at how close the times are, of course, we can't really see all the times because of the tower, but P12 is 1 second off the pace. The next car, another second off the pace, between 2 seconds, is in P38. So there is basically, 20, 26, 27 cars there, all within a second in the mid part of the pack. It is going to be so hotly contested to get up those places in that top 30 and get the points in every race. It's really going to be a tough one. Just a couple of tenths here and there, a couple of hundredths here and there between some of the drivers in this session.
Yeah, Lindqvist is going quickly again. Oh no, he didn't finish his lap. Oh, his sector times were looking quite good actually, but he's gone into pit lane and that's that. So if Marcus Byfeld can go a bit quicker here, then maybe he's got a chance of pole. I'm not sure this is doing it for the moment. His first sector wasn't even as quick as Adam Lundqvist, and he's still ahead of him. So I'm not sure this is quite going to be enough. It's going to have to be a monumental final sector, I think, for the driver of this McLaren to get himself up to the pole, and it is indeed a bit slower than what he's done before. That would still have been good enough for a front 3 row start, but he is already there in second place, excuse me. So he doesn't need that time particularly. He's got one more chance. Oliver Bohlin round the final corner now, slides a little bit in the BMW and makes his way up towards the line. This is decent, 38.6, and he will jump right around where he is currently actually. Not much of an improvement on where he is at the moment. Eric Blitz through the final corner. We've seen him return to the Oval Series in the last few weeks, and he's hit the ground running there. Can he hit the ground running maybe in the GT3 Series as well? That looks like an improvement, and it is up to the top 10 for him.
What a livery that is on that Mustang, by the way. I absolutely love that. That's really nice to see. And of course, Hockenheimring, as you say, coming back in halfway through the Oval Series, really, really good to see those boys come back in. P10 so far for him, doing a really good job. Another Mustang as well coming through. This is the 67 machine, and obviously the final couple of laps coming in here. This is Adam Lundqvist, third place as it stands, 4 tenths off. I don't think he's actually going to make it to the finish line before the timer runs out, so he is not going to have this lap count, unfortunately, but just getting that final little bit of practice before the race comes.
It's worth just continuing on, I think, in my mind anyway, to the end of the lap, just because why not? Just for the bit of practice. And there you go, the checker flag does now wave at the end of the session. So 53 drivers qualified. No prizes for guessing who didn't and who will be starting from the back end of the field. We'll get to that in a moment, but there's a monumental grid we're about to go through here, so I'm just going to take a deep breath and then we'll go top to bottom here. 54 cars with 27 rows of GT3s set to get on the grid in the next few moments and start this race. Lucas Lindqvist is at the top of them in that Lamborghini, ahead of Marcus Byfeld, a quarter of a second behind. Adam Lundqvist right directly behind Lindqvist, ahead though of Robin Osland. Oliver Hagström figures you, who was up there in the IndyCar Series, finishing 4th. He qualifies 5th for the opening round of this series, ahead of Joel Strauberg. Edwin Forsland, the IndyCar Series champion, starts 7th alongside Marcus Nielsen, with Eric Blitz and Andreas Bachmann rounding out the top 10. Frederick Dallander and Henrik Lindhoff are just in behind them, just inside a second of pole, as are Oliver Bohlin and Oscar Johansson. Then it's Rickard Everton, who has gotten just over a second off of pole. He's alongside Johnny Matson on row 8. Christopher Crook and Christopher Giros, teammates sharing row 9. Jonas Gunnarsson and Anders Hillestrom round out the top 20 ahead of Marcus Hagman and Jody Helsing. Daniel Holmer and Hakan Schott are on row 12, 2 regulars in the Oval Series. Nicholas Helm and Jock Frister next ahead of Thomas Gustrin and Gabriel Norberg. It's Sebastian Tidmo and Christian Gantz who round out the top 30. Lucas Pettersson is ahead of Robert Eriksson with Simon Green and Christopher Dahlstrand on row 17. Philip Hahn and Emil Reinbach are on row 18. Just inside 2 seconds of pole is Oscar Motin. Just outside of 2 seconds is Fredrik Forsell. Nicholas Gran and Sebastian Magnussen round out the top 40 with Thomas Kennell and Linus Hellberg on row 21. Kenneth Thier and Andreas Janssen are next, ahead of Pontus Nordgren and Klaas Loden, with Pontus Wetterstedt and Patrick Pfeffer on row 24. Ahead of the final three rows, Bjorn Broström, Robert Karlsson, Hafludis Janssen, Dan Segelson, Lars Reistad and Marcus Stiller rounding out the 54 cars on the grid. There they all are. If anything, it looks like there's even more of them there. That looks like an absolutely humongous grid, which of course it is. Maximum 62 in the session. We've got 54 of them. 63 enter for the series, by the way. There's still plenty of names we're yet to learn here at this in this 10-race series.
Yeah, this is absolutely unbelievable, really, to see these cars trying to fight their way through the opening corner here, really, even turn 2 as well at the Hockenheimring. So tight. It's I guess the track, you know, is sort of like 20 years ago that the track was redesigned by Tilke, but it's not as wide as some of his tracks coming out. Obviously this bit is because it's part of the drag strip, but the rest of it isn't very wide and it's quite old school, so there's not a lot of space around here. The drivers are going to basically take up the whole of the parabolica when they get in a single file formation as well. It's very tough for these drivers, but as you say, 10 races ahead to find a champion. We've got the top 10 being inverted after this sprint race, and of course a whole hope of heap of drivers, I should say, with hope of winning this championship. So it's a lot to work through as we get to the start of this race.
Of course, many miss the old version of the Hockenheimring, and I would count myself as one, but this new version of the circuit does certainly provide the entertainment, especially on lap 1 down into the hairpin. Watch out through there for 54 drivers all trying to get through. Only Pontus Nordgren decided that this is probably not a good idea to start on the circuit and has decided to go from pit lane instead. So 53 of them are about to come to the line. A new season of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series set to get underway from the Hockenheimring. Green flag waves and Lucas Lindqvist was not waiting around. In towards turn 1, takes it single file with the front 4 with him. Marcus Bleifeld second ahead of Adam Lundqvist, then Robin Östlund, who have all got single file early on. The guys further behind have done well to get through the opening corner without problems. Now the first braking zones of the lap come on, and now we start to look ahead towards the hairpin, where things will get a lot tighter and a lot more difficult for everybody. Lindqvist leads on the way down in towards that hairpin. Bleifeld next, then Lundqvist, then Östlund. We have got a car off down on the outside there in one of the Mustangs in the wall, but down in towards the hairpin they go. Here comes the tight section, side by side between Forsund and Oliver Hagström Viggersjö for 5th place primarily, but look at them all filtering through rather nicely so far.
I tell you what, that was a much better sector 1 than I was expecting. It was the 33 of Jonas Gunnarsson, who unfortunately went around on the exit of turn 3. I have to find out what happened there. I assume a bit of side-by-side contact. We remain side-by-side as well in this battle that you were talking about. Forsund keeping himself ahead of Oliver Hagström Viggersjö, and then of course you got the Porsche 26 behind of Stralberg trying to make that stick. Further contact before we even get into the braking zone. The 88, the two teammates, the 88 and the 99, they've both gone around.
That was big contact with the wall for Emil Reinbach as well in number 99, so he's going to be damaged and down on pit lane soon. No pit stop required in this first race, so if you do get damaged, you'll be sent a long way down the field, unfortunately. In race 2, you might be able to recover. That, meanwhile, is another one of the Mustangs. I've seen 4 cars go off the road. They've all been Mustangs so far. I'm not sure that's a reason, but it is certainly a coincidence this time round. Now, which Mustang was that, I wonder? Can't quite identify it for the moment, can't quite see, but another one going off through the final sector. That one just looked like a solo incident.
No, there's actually 2 cars. It was the 155 of Nilsson, but the 8 of Henrik Lindhoff was also involved. He was off screen, but he was dropping down the way at the same time, so he must have been involved. There's a very awkward corner actually at the Sachs curve, a bit of a banking, maybe a bit of side-by-side contact once more. We're 2 by 2 working our way through the second corner, looking at Pedersen as he works his way out onto the back. So another car just going off the track slightly in the background as well. I think that's a bit of avoiding action as they're still trying to work their way into a single file format with 3 wide around the parabolica.
Dear oh dear, more Mustangs, more contact is it? Very nearly in towards the hairpin. Do they even realise they're squeezing themselves here? Finally they'll back out and go 2 wide and do the sensible thing, but There was nearly more Mustang contact there, through in towards the hairpin. Thankfully, we all get away with it, and most of the drivers have gotten through lap 1 without too many problems. Robert Carlson, Oscar Motin and Emil Reinbach are all in pit lane at the end of lap number 1, and some of them may be there for some time. Meanwhile, side by side still down here. This is way outside the top 30, by the way, where this is all going on. Again, side by side through turn 9, and Philip Hahn is the one who works his way around the outside and through into 30th place. Head of Sebastian Tidemo, and then this group goes all the way down to 38th in the field, where it is all one long line, really. Up front, Lindqvist is leading Byfeld and Lundqvist, and the three of them are getting away a little bit from the rest of the field, but Byfeld's putting the pressure on himself here for the lead.
Oh, Byfeld says he is. He's got to run there really through turn 1, but I don't think he's going to try and make the move in turn 2. Of course, you got the big long back straight coming your way, and of course Lundqvist in third place is sat there as well. Very nicely, as you say. They're just pulling away a little bit, over a second now, so really the major slipstream is gone for the Corvette of Ostland. And that is a bit of a problem for him, because they might not be able to catch up very easily unless these three start batting at the front. Byfeld is looking and trying to get that slipstream, but he's not making a dive just yet. Of course, we know Lindqvist has got the speed, so it's not going to be easy for Byfeld to get through, but I don't think he's really trying to dive either at this point.
No, that's a bit confusing at the moment. If I'd seen those qualifying times, to be honest, and I was Byfeld, I would be striking at the first opportunity, actually, but he is taking the more patient game at the moment. Further back, it is just madness, really. Out of the top 20, Nicholas Helm and Marcus Nielsen are battling, and Hackenschott all battling for the top spot in this group, and that was close. A bit of contact through turn 7 there. High speed right-hander, normally flat out, but when you're going side by side, you've got to be careful. And those two weren't quite on that occasion. Hackenschott just get through on Nicholas Helm, who's in the traditional light blue for his team. Just behind him, Marcus Nielsen, Robert Eriksson, Christian Gantz, all in this group. There's so many of these large groups, all scattered throughout the field.
Always, we're going to see here Johansson going for a spin, the 3-1-3 on his own, the exit turn 4, and that is a really awkward place because it's so high speed. Here's how Gunnarsson went off. I didn't see any contact there, but losing the rear end. Oh, he's lost the front bumper as well. So he's definitely not going to be doing too much for it. That was a bit on the curb for the 99 of Maxson going into his teammate Reinbach. That's a little bit awkward. I think he might have just touched the curb on the outside, going through the kink.
And Kenneth Tier tried to stop himself, but he sprung off the wall like a trampoline there, did Emil Reinbach, and straight into the others. Robert Carlson on the outside got hit, yes, as he was avoiding. He spun round as well. Oh, and he spun the person who spun him round. And then he spun someone else. Oh dear, oh dear. That was all very messy down at the back end. He was trying to rejoin, and unfortunately he rejoined straight in front of Dan Segelson there. Lars Reistad came to a pretty much dead stop to try and avoid all the madness, and that's probably not the worst idea.
Yeah, lost a lot of time, but at least he had his card. Yeah, there it was. There was Lindhoff on the inside, Nielsen on the outside on the exit of the Sachs curve, and just the tiniest bit of contact. So it seems like these GT3 cars, they're very fragile. We've seen small contacts and the bumpers going all over the place. This is Reinbach after that crash trying to get back. Oh my word, that car is absolutely toast, and surely he's got to go back and tow back to pit lane, and he finally does that after a couple of corners. Here's Marcus still at the 0-1-3. They're also losing the rear end, so these cars really aren't planted here today. A lot of drivers struggling. Remember, it is a fixed setup series, so everyone, obviously all the cars are slightly different, but in theory all the cars are the same.
Yeah. It does work well, better than you'd imagine. Oh, that was a big hit on the curve of Byfeld. He's got away with it. It does work better than you'd imagine, actually, fixing the setup for everybody. Just keep variety more plentiful than you would think. You would have thought. I mean, I think we've got 5 manufacturers in the top 5 at the moment. Yeah, we have. So Lamborghini leading the way from McLaren, from Ford, from Corvette, from BMW, and then you get another McLaren and then a Porsche. So it's pretty good variety. It does work, but somehow I'm not really sure on the technicalities of it, but it does work out quite well. In reality, the setup they've elected to go for, by the way, is more sort of medium downforce, which just work quite well around here. I don't know if that's going to change race to race, but if it doesn't, then that'll mean everyone's a bit slow on the high banks of Daytona in 2 weeks' time, but it may mean slipstreaming is a bit more easy, as if it needs to be around that circuit. We'll see how it races when we get there in 2 weeks' time. This is the low end of the top 20, further down the back of the field. This is actually stemming from Lindhoff, who we just saw in that incident in the number 8 car. He's at the head of this now. I think it's probably because he's worked his way to the front of all this, actually. He's just ahead of Christopher Geros, then Anders Bachmann, then Anders Hillestrom, who we're seeing here in the Porsche. Just behind him is Jody Helsing, Daniel Holmer, Jock Frisk at the end of the train, although those two are a little bit detached from these guys at the moment. Yet again, another big train, but actually not too much overtaking happening in the top 20. It's all happening back here, where people are scrapping for positions and some of them trying to come back through the field from quite low positions.
And this is important because points only go to P30, so these places are important to try and sort of fight yourself up to get on that back end, but too much fighting and you will lose time to the cars ahead, so you've got to be careful. Big send down the inside there in front of Dahlstrand. Now that is grand, trying to send up the inside. Absolutely mega sent there, trying to make it work through Sachs curve. Oh, this is a little bit awkward through the sort of chicane sequence, and it looks like that's Marcus Hagman really slowing down, losing a couple of places, make that 3 places. He must be coming down pit road with some damage.
Yes, he does. He is a long way down from where he started. There you go, down 20 now as he's coming to pit lane. Marcus Nilsson's another one of those drivers. I was mentioning plenty of those who have had problems early on and are just coming back through the field again, and it's creating these large groups, if you like. And Nilsson is one of those. He's on the back of Nicholas Helm, I think, at the moment. This is into the penultimate corner for Fredrik Forsell, who's hit someone in front of him and gone for a spin to the inside of the corner. Not the worst place to find yourself, actually. He'll get back going again on the inside line. Further back, this is for 18th place in the field. I think that is Holmer getting past Helsing, and he's up to 18th place. So Holmes actually had to do a bit of catching there and then a pass into 18th place. Still, for these guys, a little bit far away from the top 10, which will reverse you and put you towards the front for the second race.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, the time split as well. Of course, the top drivers at the top, they're clean air, they're able to just do their pace. They're doing low 38s. Everyone in the midfield is doing low 39s. So it really is quite a big pace split, and towards the back, people are in the 40s. So when you get into these battles, of course, they're slightly slow drivers anyway, subject to their qualifying position. But then when you have all these battles as well, it just slows you down. And the field spread is absolutely massive, really. If you are not up inside top 10, top 15 in the opening few laps of the race, you're really going to struggle to get up into those reverse grid places. So qualifying is going to be very crucial this season.
It absolutely is. Even if we're at a circuit where it is a bit more possible to overtake, we've got plenty of those to come. At Daytona, Spa, for example. But still, you do want to be up towards the front, as you say. That's Klaas Loden going quite wide there. Patrick Pfeffer just in behind, then Kenneth Thier as well, who was a big focus of our broadcast last week at Daytona in the Oval Series. Changed for fourth, by the way. Edwin Forsund through on Robin Osland, who I thought was actually pretty secure in fourth place, but he's lost that pretty decisively there to Forsund, who's on the march. And next up will be Oliver Hagström-Vigezju to try and get past Robin Osland. So we've still got 5 manufacturers in the top 5, but it's in a different order now. Forsund is growing into this race, it seems. He's only getting quicker as he goes along. Last time round, 38.3, only can be matched by Beifeld, who was the only driver quicker than him last time round.
And here's the move down the inside is going to be, and not much defending. Osland actually basically just letting him through. That's rather nice of him. At least he doesn't really lose that much time, and they can chase down Lundqvist. So Lundqvist in third place has dropped off the back of Beifeld, and he's sort of coming towards Forsund. So that would be a very interesting one as the top two do pull away, but Beifeld still not able to challenge the two-time champion out front.
Not for the moment. I can't quite understand what he's doing at the moment, because I've seen him as close as 2 tenths behind Lundqvist, and he's just not done anything really about it. Now, I guess it does depend a little bit on where he is 2 tenths behind, where on the circuit they are at the time. When he is 2 tenths behind, that does change things, I suppose. But, you know, I would be having a go at a move. I mean, maybe he's proved that he can stay with him here, and he is just going to stay there and try and strike in the last quarter of this race, maybe on the last few laps. But I don't know. I think he could have gone for a move by now, and so far he just hasn't attempted one. This is further down the field, and Anders Bachmann is dropping down from a good qualifying. He's now well outside the top 20. It's the thing with a large field and a close field. your mistakes are certainly punished.
Yeah, they are. Let's see how this happened. Oh, just touched the back of that McLaren ahead of him. These cars really are. Just very, very sensitive today. Just enough on that front end. I mean, he was already sort of unsettled actually from the clash of the curb coming through turn 2, and then unfortunately the bit of contact on that front end was enough for it to spin around. So the drivers really need to be careful when they're around other cars today. And I say that as Helm goes straight into the back of the car ahead of him. That is not the ideal way to go through that corner. Literally, when we were just talking about it, that was Norberg just in front. Unfortunately, he could save it.
That was literally exactly what you were talking about. And as you were saying it, Helm was not doing it in towards turn 8. So, well, there you go. We nearly saw a very similar incident indeed. It was Johnny Matson, by the way, who he hit there in 14th place. So he's going to continue on with a big gap behind him. That's a big slide in towards the final couple of corners, and 2 for the price of 1 down the inside for Marcus Nielsen. He's coming through the field, don't forget, and he's now inside the top 20. There were 3 positions there as Gabriel Norberg went off the road, or nearly went off the road, down the penultimate corner.
Yeah, I didn't quite see the entry. I was just looking away at the live time and looked back, and I couldn't quite see. Was that a big send from Helm, or was it Norberg actually just going wide that meant Helm could go up the inside, slowing both of them down? And then, of course, the 155 going through as well. Here is the number 8 car of Lindhoff trying to get his way further up the field, and he's certainly doing a good job of that. He's got Crook now on his outside, and it looks like it is going to be P12 for the number 8, who, of course, was sent absolutely flying at the Indianapolis Oval in the previous road course series, and was really a contender up towards the front for quite a while, but of course not just having the race that he would have wanted so far today.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that. I don't quite remember who was involved, but I do remember the incident now you mention it.
I remember it because your scream was just insane.
Well, it was quite an insane finish. Into the final few corners for this battle. This is Lindhoff actually going away from Crook, I think it will be in a few moments' time. Lindhoff has had, I should say, his problems so far in this race, namely through this corner with Nielsen, but now coming back through the field again. There, Byfeld was less than 2 tenths behind Lindqvist. I guess he was in the final couple of corners and so didn't want to do anything again there, but they're being caught by Adam Lundqvist, and the longer this goes on, the more Byfeld is going to invite Lundqvist to the leading fight. Surely, if Byfeld is in the middle of a 3-car battle for the lead, that's going to be a lot more difficult to deal with than it is at the battle he's got at the moment. That's Jock Frisk, meanwhile, going for a spin at turn 12 there for him. He drops down a fairly Porsche spin, I would describe that as, really.
Yeah, I mean, that car was just never getting stopped, was it? He broke way too late. I wonder if he had maybe just slightly touched the grass or something, but he was coming in way too hot into Sachs, and was not able, even with the banking, was not able to get that slowed down, so losing a few positions. Fortunately, can continue on in the race. After saying that Forsman was getting close to Lundqvist, I think that gap's actually grown, to be honest. So the top 3 do definitely have this pace. Looking at the recent laps, yeah, I mean, Forsman was almost 7 tenths slower on that previous lap than Lundqvist, so speed definitely there for the top 3, and I think the podium is pretty sorted in that regard. So it's just a case of whether Osland wants to try and get back past Forsland and get up into 4th place.
Yeah, and it's clear what I was commenting on at the time a few moments ago was not a trend, but a singular lap where Forsland was particularly quick. I'd say second fastest on that particular lap a while ago. But I guess the pressure now maybe of defending for 4th, getting to him a little bit, mirror driving slightly. When you're looking in the mirrors too much, then you can be susceptible to pressure, and certainly susceptible to going a bit slower than you otherwise might do. Robin Forsland is the one immediately next in the queue in the yellow. Then it's Oliver Hagström figures you. Joost Strauberg is a little bit too far away for the moment, but if they fight, he'll be there in the Porsche. Further up front, Lundqvist, Byfeld and Lundqvist go on to the penultimate lap, and again they are in one long line. Byfeld again is not close enough to make a move. He's sort of a similar distance apart as these guys are, really. When you look at these guys, you think maybe there's a chance here, but clearly Byfeld doesn't feel like that. He's either waiting for the final lap or he's not going to make a move at all.
Yes, I would potentially think not. I mean, there has been some big sense so far, but are you playing the championship game at this point? I'm not sure. It's one of those things where when you're in a solid position, you do just want to take those points as well. And we do have to remember these top 10 do get reversed for the next race. And there's way more laps in the next race, although the points do remain the same. So these sprint races where you have the qualifying position, so you can use your abilities to get to the front in qualifying and then stay there during the race. This is where you want to score the points. The next race, where you have the invert, that's where you have potentially a little bit more chaos. Top 10, though, should be fine for these drivers. I don't think there's going to be too much worry in terms of being with some, potential backmarkers.
There's no battle for 10th place in the pole position for the next race, by the way, so not too much to watch there. This is the 10th place driver, Fredrik Dallander, and he's not got much pressure on. I wouldn't have thought he's going to do anything extravagant to try and overtake Oliver Bohlin, putting his pole position for the next race at risk, although he does go a bit wide there. White flag waves, 12th lap and final lap here at the Hockenheimring, and Lucas Lindqvist is under real pressure here from Marcus Byfeldt. He has deflected this pressure for 11 laps now. Can he do it for a 12th? I'm not sure that was the best run from the McLaren. Byfeldt is going to be needing a big slipstream and a big dive down the inside of the hairpin if he wants to take race 1 victory here in the GT3 series. Down into the corner, he shapes like he's going down the inside. He was never going to. His run wasn't good enough out of turn 4.
Now, arguably, this next corner is the better overtaking opportunity, to be honest, but he made a little bit of a mistake there through the hairpin. He was trying to get the up and under, couldn't quite do it, and he's lost a couple of car lengths. So Lindqvist is looking really strong here as we come towards the final sector of the race. The only real last overtaking opportunity is into the Sachs curve, but Byfeldt is just a little bit too far behind. He needs another 10th or so to even have the opportunity of putting Lindqvist under pressure, to be honest. We work our way through Mobile 1 for the final time of asking in this sprint race, is that going to be enough for Byfeldt to have one final dive?
He's 3 tenths behind, and after putting pressure on the whole day, it's not quite happened for him. Bit wide there from Lindqvist, to be honest, through turn 12, but he's going to get a monster run out of it, and Byfeldt is far too far behind to even try anything, even though he does look up the inside through the final 2 corners. The first round of the Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series here at the Hockenheimring is going to go to Lucas Lindqvist, 2-time GT3 champion, showing us exactly why he's got that double crown, taking the first race win of the season, albeit under big pressure from Byfeldt and Lundqvist. Meanwhile, further behind, Bohlin and Dallander follow one another over the line. They'll be on the front row for race 2. Lindhoff only recovered to 11th with a pass on the last lap. He'll be frustrated at that lap 1 incident with Nielsen, who's just up in the 19th place here over the line. It's just in front of these guys. The top 10 is set, and it does not include Lindhoff, much to his disappointment, I would imagine.
And of course, points do go down to P30. Looks like Thomas Cannell has just nicked that coming across the line. So I think Jukka Frisk, in the Porsche there, having some issues in the final couple of corners, and he's lost out on that P30. So the final point goes the way of the number 14 machine. So many cars still coming across the line. Of course, they will be back for race 2 in a few moments' time as well, with another opportunity to get up inside the top 30. But they'll be starting from their finishing positions.
Yeah, if that's going to be the case for more than 40 of these drivers, with only the top 10 reversed. Here are a few of the battered and bruised making their way over the line. Just in the background there is that Segelson with not much of a front end at the moment. It is indeed. He's been in the wars. Lucas Lindqvist takes the first race win of the season by just 4 attempts in the end, ahead of Marcus Byfeldt and Adam Lundqvist in third. Evan Forsen held off Robin Austin and Oliver Hagström Vigersjö there quite well. Joel Stolberg was just a bit too far behind. Eric Blix was on his own for a lot of that race in 8th. Oliver Bohlin and Fredrik Dallander round out those who will be inverted for race 2. Henrik Lindhoff dropped to 11th, although he did pass Rickard Emberton at the very end. Christopher Cook watched that from 13th place with Johnny Matson and Christopher Garros rounding out the top 15. Daniel Holmer, Jody Helsing, Anders Hillström, Marcus Nielsen and Nicholas Helm round out the top 20. Just over a half minute back off the win was Hackenschott, with Gabriel Nordberg just in behind. Christian Gantz, Andreas Bachmann and Lucas Peterson round out the top 25. Robert Eriksson, Philip Hahn were next ahead of a duo of Mustangs, Simon Green and Sebastian Tidmer, and Thomas Kinnell did steal that final point at the very end. Linus Hellberg just missed out. Jock Frisk was the one who was dropping down, as you were saying. Thomas Gustrin finished 33rd ahead of Nicholas Grahn and Oscar Janssen. Kenneth Tier was 36th in the end ahead of Andreas Janssen, with Christopher Dahlström, Pontus Tvested and Klaas Loden rounding out the top 40. Then outside the top 40, 41st, well, the time screen's reset for me, so I can't see. It's Patrick Pfeffer and Jonas Gunnarsson who are inside a minute of the win. Bjorn Broström, 43rd, ahead of Fredrik Forsell. Sebastian Magnusson rounding out the top 45. Pontus Norgren, Lars Reistad, Marcus Stiller, Fritz Johansson, and Dan Sagelson rounding out the top 50. And indeed, those who finished on the lead lap, I think, Marcus Hageman got there as well. Robert Carlson, Oscar Mochin, and Emil Reinbach were the only retirements from the 54. That is pretty remarkable. Race 2 coming up here in a short while. It's raining on the Hockenheimring. Don't go anywhere. The second race is coming up soon. Welcome back to a rather soggy Hockenheimring for race 2 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series. It's the Area81 GP here at the Hockenheimring, and race 2 is about to get underway. We've just had the first 12 laps race. Pretty short dash that reigning GT3 champion Lucas Lindqvist was able to take victory in. But the second race, 29 laps, a bit more considered, a lot more action, and came a bit of rain on the circuit as well. For the first time this season, it's not taken us very long. We've got the rain on the circuit for this longer second race.
Oh yes, we certainly do. And because of the way the fixed setup works, the fixed setup has 50% of the fuel tank. So obviously in sprint race it's fine. For the feature race though, it means you don't have enough fuel to get to the end, and therefore a pit stop is required naturally. Of course, you can basically pit straight away, you know, at the end of lap 1 and fill up if you want, but at some point they will need to come in to the pit lane, which is a very interesting prospect as well. So let's see how they go. They can do about 17 laps or so, at least in dry running, 17 laps or so. In the wets though, that's going to be interesting how they work it, also with the tyres, with how damp it gets, or maybe it dries up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Are we going to see people waiting out? We will get to that, though, in a few moments' time and discuss strategy around that, because Fredrik Dalander is about to take the prime position here, pole position here for the second race, alongside Oliver Bohlin, who he was trailing through much of that race. Eric Blix has got a great chance from winning from third. We'll see if he's got the speed. Joel Schauberg just in alongside him. Oliver Hagström, Viggersjö and Robin Osland will share row 3, ahead of Edvin Forsund, who held those guys off during the previous race. Alan Lundqvist, Marcus Byfeld and Lucas Lingvist were at the top of the grid in the first race, so they're now 8th, 9th and 10th. The rest of them are as you were from your finishing order from race 1, so we'll let them scroll through on your screen as we continue talking. I mean, you mentioned the open strategy about having this 50% fuel load initially, and then obviously a full tank that you're able to fill. You could fill up right the way up if you wanted to. You'd never need to in one of these races, but you could do it if you wanted. I just wonder whether the normal openness that we're going to see throughout this season on strategy is going to be narrowed here today. If everybody's waiting for it either to get worse rain-wise or get better rain-wise, and they're going to put dries on, I wonder whether everyone's going to be waiting for that rather than actually playing a fuel game that we're all expecting them to throughout most of the season.
Yeah, assuming the wet weather, obviously they'll be able to do a few more laps on the fuel. So instead of about 17 laps, maybe they can do, let's say, 20 laps. That just leaves 9 laps at the end. So it'd be interesting if it does dry up. But say they need to get to lap 23 to put the dries on. By lap 20, it might not be quite dry enough. So that would be very interesting if they're forced to come in. But let's see how it goes. Of course, it's quite wet out there, so it probably will end up just being wet for the whole race. And therefore, do you just come in, keep the same tyres, and just come in for a splash and dash on the fuel? Because, of course, if we change tyres, that will add quite a lot of time, because we don't need to take much fuel to get to the end.
I'm not confident they're all going to stay on wets the whole way through, actually. I've got a feeling this might dry out late on, but we'll see if it's early enough. It could well stay wet for the entirety. As far as the data I've got is showing, and as far as I can work out, everybody's going to be on the wets to begin with here. That just makes sense given the rainfall that we've got going on at the moment. And the spray in the midfield and towards the back is going to be quite phenomenal. Through the final couple of corners, a number of drivers have decided to stay in and start from pit lane, which might not be the worst choice, because there's 29 laps here at the Hockenheimring and it's raining for the first time in the GT3 series for season 2025. We're underway and in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Dalander on the inside, Bohlin on the outside, swooping around the outside and getting the lead. Stolberg goes way off, Osland off a little bit as well in the Corvette as they all try and make it work. In fact, Stolberg in the Porsche was the only driver going really a long way off the road there in towards turn 1, but he's made it work, and he's now side by side for second with Eric Blix in the Mustang through in towards turn 4. He's close, he's contact with Blix. It's in front of the field. They're all going to go either side. Hagström Viggersjö's going to go round. Stolberg gets the return of serve from Eric Blix there, who turns him around, and somehow they all avoid.
Yeah, it was a straight 360 there for Stolberg. There's a crash in the background as well. 2 separate incidents as the drivers try and work their way through these terrible conditions. Look at the spray. For 3, 4, 5 cars behind, you can see absolutely nothing. Cold tyres, cold brakes. Everyone going off at the first corner. Is there any 10-pin bowling moments down in towards the hairpin? I think we're all okay thus far. But so many drivers out there on the track. Complete chaos as they'll try and find their space on the track.
Goodness me. It's better than I thought it was going to be, but still a bit of contact up front between Blix and Stolberg that they're both going to be arguing over at the end of the day. Down in towards turn 8, this is where it gets very difficult, and it looks like there is cars off the road down here. Christopher Crook losing another place to Henrik Lindhoff, by the way, with out front. Where's Lucas Lindqvist got to? I can see Lundqvist up in the top 5 at the moment.
Oh,
Lindqvist at the moment is, not anymore. He drops down. He's lost his rear wing somewhere as well here. He's nearly hit by another one of the Mustangs, another one of the McLarens as well. Goes off to the side of the circuit. Goodness me, it's happened in the final sector. It's the final sector where it's all going wrong for everybody.
Oh, this is absolute carnage, as Hockenheimring was one of the first cars going off. There's just no grip out there. The drivers are going off the road left, right and centre. We haven't even made it to the end of the first 4-kilometre lap. We're already seeing drivers come down pit road as well. That is not what you want to see. Unbelievable scenes. I think Edmondson has also come down pit road. These guys are just not really being able to get up to speed. I wonder what it is. Maybe the track is way more wet than they expected in the warm-up.
Lindhoff's off, ironically, and through turn 1 he's dropping down the field. There he is, outside the top 15 for the first time, and there's one of the Acuras in the background goes for a smack into the wall as well. That is in the background, one of the Acuras into the wall and losing a load of places through turn number 1. Down in towards 2, they now go in the lead, by the way. Oliver Bohlin is out front in the BMW ahead of Edwin Forsand, also in a BMW, and 2 seconds is the margin. Bohlin really making use of the starting position for himself. Lucas Lindqvist has not got off to the best start. He dropped as low as 17th at one stage. He's now 14th. There he goes through the bottom of his shot. He's actually just got through on Philip Hahn in the yellow Porsche, so he's moving on up, but he's down a few on where he started.
What an opening lap and a half we had here at Hockenheim. And of course, we've got 29 to go. Hopefully the drivers keep it on the track as well. They're just really struggling with these wet conditions. It's an absolute monsoon out there. I do believe it's just way more wet than they were expecting, and just not able to judge. And all for the lead though. The lead has gone around. Bohlin is sat in a terrible place. Press escape. Get out of the way for the drivers. Otherwise this could be absolute carnage. Reversing, and somehow Helm's made it out of the way, but there's a further spin in the background that's not involved.
It's Lindqvist. Lindqvist has gone round after making contact with one of the McLarens, and it's Jody Helsing, by the looks of things, who he's made contact with here. Bohlin gets back going again. Lindqvist drops now down to 22nd. It's the final sector where and look at that in the background, by the way. That was loads of drivers going in at once. Forza, meanwhile, leads ahead of Oliver Hagström Biggersjö. Then it's Byfeld, who's already up to 3rd, ahead of Eric Blixt, who's down to 4th now. Here comes Oliver Hagström Biggersjö on the outside line. He's not going to get anywhere there. And Byfeld, in his fellow McLaren, is suddenly looking in a brilliant position.
He certainly is. This is a wild, wet and wild race here at Hockenheim, and I can't believe that we've even seen the top drivers as well struggling. Just showed you that, there's a car off in the very background there. Might be a Hockenheimring actually. Definitely some cars with damage out there. I mean, you even see Eric Blixer in that 4th place. He's got a bent front end on that car. The drivers are really struggling to keep it on the track. We do have a car off in front of the leaders. Hopefully they don't get involved and cause further problems.
That looks like Hockenheimring indeed through in the Ford Mustang. 45th for him at the moment. I was complimenting the guys on doing such a great job through lap number 1. 51 drivers out of 54 getting to the finish. Unfortunately, we've already had 14 in the pit lane at some stage, actually more than that, in the pit lane at some stage already. This is on lap 1, I think. Simon Green going off through turn number 1. This is Carlson picking his way through a whole load of problems down at the final few corners and going for another spin just to add on to it. Dan Segelson getting underway after an incident as well. There's one of the spins. He's around nobody, so I'd imagine there's problems before that. This is Lindqvist. I'm interested to see how that's how he's already had a spin in this race. So he's had 2 now. That must have been with Lindhoff. There's the Blixt and Strauberg hitting with each other. It was just a sort of a closing of the gap there, and Lindqvist didn't really have anywhere to go. Neither did Lindhoff, I think it was, in the BMW. And so that's why Lindqvist dropped all the way down. That's why he's really behind at the moment. This is Strauberg. I'm not sure this was quite intentional from Blixt at the very end, but it certainly was a return to exactly what happened to him. Lundqvist already had lost his rear wing by that point somehow, and he just dipped around it in time. Meanwhile, in live pictures, Edwin Forsand has gone for a spin through turn 1 and now loses the lead.
Oh my word. such difficult conditions out there. The wet tyres just not giving any grip to these drivers. They are so on the limit, tiptoeing their way around. And Forsen has now dropped down to P7. We've got Crook down in pit lane as well. There's a Lundqvist, but as you say, he'd already lost the rear wing by that point. So not having the downforce that he would have expected coming through fastest corner on the track. And around the outside for Matson is going to be, just a bit of contact. And he went left, shot went right as they both end up off the track. There's two cars off the track in the background as well. Oh my word, that was Nielsen hitting the back of the green Turtle Pace racing machine. Wow, that is a big hit. I think that was Edvington who unfortunately ended up on pit road.
Dear, oh dear, that was he was never going to slow that down in time, to be honest. And there you go. That was the result. Adam Lundqvist back into the top 10. Lundqvist is back to 14th, in the field. So he's doing well to recover here, but he's had two problems already, Lundqvist. And that's really put him a long way behind those he was around in the first race, like Lundqvist and Byfeld, who were up inside the top 3 and on the podium with him during the first race. Philip Hahn just in front has been overtaken there. This is Hillestrom. I think this is was it he who got hit by Nielsen? No, it was one of his teammates. He must have had a separate incident. It was one of the Porsches coming down the inside, and bang, there you go. Through turn 12, it was absolutely carnage down here on that one. I thought, turn 2 and the hairpin was going to be the real pinch points on that one, but actually it was the final sector, the whole final sector.
This is unbelievable. The highlights reel is going to be quite something. This reminds me of the Zandvoort race in F4 back a year ago when we had Dane Baird doing the production that day. He made like a little highlights reel that we played after the broadcast at the end before the outro. And I can't remember exactly how many it was, but there was a lot of replays. It was like 50, 60, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see similar by the end of the day. There's Oliver Wallen spinning from the lead in such a nice position as well. How no one really collected him, I will not know. That was a terrible position, and very fortunate that all the drivers are running after that.
Yeah, good presence of mind there from Evan Forsland, who was first on the scene, to actually predict correctly where he was going to go and avoid him. As that was happening, Lundqvist was making contact with somebody else and going for a second spin of the race. So that was through turn 11, through Mobile 1 curve, and there's about 4 of them coming past him sideways there in one form or another. Lundqvist back onto the circuit again and then repasses one of the Porsches very easily indeed, and he can gain some of these places back again. By the way, he is 22 seconds off the lead, so I know that he's currently in where is he, 11th place in the field, and that doesn't look too bad, but actually when you consider the time he's lost to the leaders, now he gets to the top 10, he has actually lost out on quite a lot there on people he needs to be around.
Oh yeah, he's got past Jochen Frisk there, but yeah, he's back. Actually, he's into the top 10, so position-wise he's fine, but how on earth is he going to get those 27? Here's Giros. Was there contact in the back, or was it just a bit of grass on the braking? Just a snap on the rear end, and that was enough to go off. Really tough conditions. Further cars off in the background as well. I mean, he's almost every corner.
Yeah, it's Hillestrom, I think. Or Edvington, actually. They're both laps down in that portion. Meanwhile, Blixt is coming through, even though he's got that damage from spinning round Straubberg earlier. He's still going strong. Oh, he just gets himself in front. Careful of the length of that Mustang. He's just about got in front of Marcus Byfeld. He's now in between a couple of McLarens. In fact, he's got the slipstream of Olo Hagström Vigersjö now on the way down in towards the hairpin. There might be a bit of a chance here. The long braking zone does promote lunges. Now, he is going to be defended from, and he's going to get himself in the way of Byfeld as well. So the 3 leaders will stay as they were through the hairpin, but Blix seems to be the one on the move actually at the moment. He's looking on the outside again here, in towards turn 7. Surely he's not going to try this round the outside. He's going to back out surely and have a go at turn 8, and he does. He wouldn't have got the room anyway, even if he'd tried it. He'll be on the outside for turn 8, and he's going nowhere there. That's quite deep into the corner from Hagström Vigersjö, but he's pulled it up in time, and he is allowed to continue on with the lead. Not even finishing lap 6 at the moment.
It's very sunny out there though, so I wonder if it does dry up a little bit. Helps the drivers potentially in the second half of this race. But that 95 car is moving around all over the place. I know it's wet and the cars are unstable anyway, but a big snap under braking again. But his car looks, I mean, it's fast, but oh my word, just not drivable at all. And talking of that, there is Bohlin when he went around a couple of laps ago and rejoining there. Fortunately, was able to find a gap to get going again. He's down in P7 currently as we get to the end of lap number 6, and Blixt, he's looking very fast and very menacing at this moment in time.
He certainly is. I'm not sure where he's found it from either, because it's not like he... Oh, there's a big slide again in towards turn number 1. Huge opposite lock, and he's very nearly off. Halber Hodgson Biggershew spins to the inside. Blixt very nearly joins him, and Marcus Beifeld is going to have a chance on the outside line here for the lead of this race. He started 9th, by the way, after finishing 2nd in the sprint race. Beifeld is in a huge position here, out of turn 4. If he's got the traction, he's got a chance, and he certainly does. He's less than a quarter of a second off the pretty beaten up Mustang at the moment, and Blixt is fighting with that machine into every braking zone at the moment. Beifeld was very tentative in race 1 though. Is he going to do the same here in race number 2? He goes to the outside line, he brakes a lot later. He has got his nose right alongside here. Is he going to go for the up and under? He would try to, but Blixt parks himself in the way, and he holds on to the lead.
That is a stellar performance here by Blixt to have the speed in this car at this moment in time, but then also to be able to defend. But it does look like it is ready to send him into the fence. He needs to be, basically, full concentration in this race if he wants to hold on to it. Once again, just wiggling all over the place. You see the McLaren is so much more planted there, and the damage is really not helping Blixt. He does move over to the right-hand side, though. Is that what is that to do? Was that to just cool the tyres or some silly thing, or was it just trying to say don't fight because we have Stolberg? And oh my word, he is really struggling with this car.
The advice you're always given in the wet, isn't it, is don't go on curves, but Blixt there did exactly the opposite. He was all over them. And he is again. This is the spin for the lead. He was going round from the very beginning there, unfortunately. Oliver Hodgson
gone. Bohlin has gone again in the 27. He's having further issues. Your reigning IndyCar Series champion, he just spun a lap or two ago that we saw the replay of, and now he's dropping further down the way, and that is not great at all. It's crazy how just staying in the race is such a big thing. Stolberg, he did that 360 on the opening lap, and he's now just 2 seconds off the lead, so it really pays to keep it on the road. And I mean, to be honest, let's see how many drivers really get to the end in a good condition. We've already seen a big gap between 3rd and 4th.
Absolutely, yeah. There are some very big gaps created a bit further down the field as well. Edwin Forsens is still dropping down the field here. Has he just disconnected?
Potentially, because his time is 0:00. So it might be might be an internet issue. Let's have a
Yeah, well, okay. It was just an internet problem. That is a real shame for him. You can drop a race, by the way, this season, but that will have to be it for Forsund in this case, because he's not going to score any points at all. Here's Helm, on the inside of the pole sitter, Frederick Dallander, and that's going to be a pretty easy move in the end for Helm. It's a great drive from him so far, up inside the top 5, although he's kind of let the Acura back again here. We'll shut the door now, but Helm up inside the top 5. He was a lot further down than this on the start. And this is a brilliant performance so far from him. Plenty of those in the field, though. I mean, Dan Holmer's up inside the top 10 for the first time in a while as well. I think they're the only two. Philip Hahn as well has just made his way into the top 10. A couple of great drives, but some big gaps as well and some big incidents. I can tell you that only 31 drivers out of the 53 who started have stayed out the pit lane all race so far.
Oh my word, it's over 20 cars already down pit road then. That is a crazy stat in just the 8 laps that we've had so far. Here's the 97 of Lindqvist. He's working his way up the positions one by one, of course, helping that couple of cars that spun in front of him. But he's still that 20 seconds off the lead. Realistically, though, he probably could get up to like P4, who's just 10 seconds ahead of him, subject to the speed that we're expecting in that car. But oh, wow, what a slide there through the chicane. He's pushing, he's trying to make it work, but he's got the BMW of Holmer right in front of him.
Yeah, 7th place for Holmer at the moment, and Lindqvist is absolutely all over him at the moment. It shows you there's nothing wrong with the speed in the wet weather, but the problems he's had so far in the race have been the things holding him back, really. Through turn 1, he's got a much better run there. Holmer was tentative and didn't want to go off the road, I suppose, but he's going to be passed pretty easily there by Lucas Lindqvist. who's on the inside line and through into 7th. So the Lamborghini's moving on up, but now look at the gap he's got. He's got 10 seconds to Frederick Jalander. This is the problem for him now. It's not the position, really. It's the time he's lost in all the kerfuffles he's had.
Absolutely, having a clean race is often better than not, as you would expect. So you've got to be pretty careful with that one. The lead gap is going up and down, up and down. Blake's got it to over a second now. Byfeld's got it back down to 0.2 of a second, just showing you how easy it is to make mistakes here. It's going to ebb and flow over the course of the race. It's going to be very difficult to predict. We've got a few drivers obviously still down pit road as they try and get some repairs. We're seeing quite a lot of personal best sectors coming, actually, so I think it is drying up just a little bit as the race progresses.
I think so. The forecast, by the way, was for the chance of rain to dip to 0 with about a quarter of the race remaining, maybe a bit less, maybe a fifth of the race remaining. So it is going to continue to dry up. I don't think this race is going to be long enough for dries to be put on, but somebody might try. It is still spitting with rain, you can see on some of the cameras as well at the moment, and the wipers are certainly going to be required if you're in traffic at the moment, which most of these drivers are. Eric Blick's under a lot of pressure again from Marcus Byfeldt here, but the waiting around again for Byfeldt has meant that someone else has caught him. It's kind of race one repeating itself here, but in wet weather conditions and with a different driver in front of him. Byfeldt not quite as aggressive for the race lead as maybe you'd hope, and it's costing him at the moment. That's a much better run through turns 2, 3 and 4. I'm not sure he's quite going to be close enough by the end of the straight, but he might be. It's a lot better of a run, and Blix clearly feels under threat. He's running round wide through the Parabolica. Byfeldt decides not to follow him and stays on the racing line. Is this really going to be an attempt for the move, for the lead, I should say, or is it going to be just a move to the outside for now? Yeah, he's got a good exit, a very good exit, in fact. Does he want to use it in towards turn 7? Can he get alongside for turn 7? The answer is going to be no, but maybe turn 8 as he follows very closely through on the Mustang. He has another look, but he's not going to get through. If he's this passive in his overtakes, Byfeldt's never going to pass for the lead, but he's going to wait for a mistake, and now maybe he might make a move. Outside line for turn 10. He's got to run round here, and he's got to be careful. Blix very nearly making contact with him. Byfeldt running round the outside has still got the outside for turn 11. Is Blix still alongside? No. And finally, his strategy of waiting for an error has worked, and he's gotten into the lead.
Bono Blix is going to be aggressive and potentially try and get that position back. Not in the first braking zone, as Stralberg is really up behind them now. Perfect timing. Oh, we've got someone off on the gravel on that right-hand side. Fortunately, staying out the way of those leaders coming through. But this is a potentially important point of the race, because if Blix is now going to try a bit too hard, maybe makes another mistake, then that's going to be a bad thing. Or Byfeldt, now he's out in clear air, you might be able to start pulling away with all the mistakes that Blix is making.
Absolutely. We'll see which of those transpires as we get 1/3 of the way through this race. Byfeldt gets into the lead for the first time, meaningfully really, in either of these races so far today. Blix is the one right behind him, but hasn't been getting great runs out of turns 2, 3 and 4 here, so I'm suspecting that might happen again. Lundqvist, by the way, looks absolutely battered here. He's got no front bumper, he's got no rear wing, but he's still going fine. And he's round the outside of Jock Frisk. My goodness! How he's doing this, I'm not really sure, but he's back up to 11th place now.
But it's probably a good thing that he's lost both the front and the rear bumper. So in terms of the aero performance, the balance actually should be okay. Because one issue is if you only lose the rear wing, then the aero balance goes all the way to the front, and that can make it quite hard to drive. So even though he still has less downforce overall, the balance means he can still continue on around the track, I guess. There's probably some physics in there somewhere, but also because we are in the wet conditions, we are so much more limited on the traction, etc. He's probably getting away with it, and if he can get to the end, he's currently P11, that would be some strong points indeed. But it just shows you how getting to the end is so important. I was just thinking about Byfeldt actually, Ewan, in the F4 Championship this time last year that he won, he actually had less wins than Ericsson, but Ericsson had a few DNFs and this sort of stuff, a few ill results, whereas Byfeldt had so many second places behind Ericsson. He was just carried on getting those solid results every race. He's very consistent throughout a season, and especially in a 10-race season, I think that's going to come to the front.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, it's not unheard of at all. Forsund won with less wins than Lindhoff and Ericsson. last season in the IndyCar series, so it's certainly possible. I'm not sure that damage is having any effect on Lundqvist, by the way, at the moment, as we have a look at Oscar Janssen here through turn 7. Oh, I thought he was going to save it for a moment. He's going to hit the wall, though, surely. Yep, he will, down there on the outside line. So he drops down side by side. Meanwhile, between... Frisk is back ahead of Lundqvist, is he? Oh, no, I'm looking at a timing delay, excuse me. Frisk is trying to stay ahead of Bachmann now in the field. There's Bachmann in the Lamborghini. This is Frederick Forssell on replay, going way too quickly, and he's lost it under braking anyway, so goes off into the gravel on the outside line. Lap 12 now, edging towards halfway, and at the moment Byfeld is just moving away a little bit from the rest of the field, doing a good job as well, as this race begins to just quiet down a little bit and these guys get used to the conditions, and perhaps the drying nature of these conditions as well is helping out with everybody getting used to them, or maybe, as I say, maybe everyone is just getting used to it.
As we had a car pulled off to the right there before turn 2, we had a car going slowly as well. Still, drivers unsettled in this race so far. So definitely not the ideal situation for these drivers to carry on racing. It's been a tough one for them, but that is how you get through these championships. And we all know that the wet weather was a great addition to the iRacing service, as that is going to be Jocke Frisk getting up the inside. Just a nice simple move there, and of course Bachmann coming through as well as he works his way down towards turn 8, still trying to chase down Lundberg without the wings, but actually Lundberg going off there, but it seems like Frisk not able to get through just yet. He's come back to the front, Byfeld leading, but he's still got the 95 all over the back of it.
Traffic hasn't got out of the way of Stauberg. He was not going to be very pleased about that, and he's going to be... Oh, his gap to the lead's doubled there, because lap traffic was slightly in the way through turn number 1, and I can't imagine he'll be pleased, although they didn't really get out of the way of Byfeld either, so they're only this close as a result of that, I suppose. Through turns 2, 3 and 4 again, and McLaren's just got a better run and a better line through there for whatever reason. Byfeld has just got that line down a lot more secure, and Eric Blixt is struggling to really compete with that at the moment. Down in towards the hairpin, he is going to stay behind. Wonder how long these guys are going to leave it here. There doesn't seem to me to be any disadvantage or advantage to staying out, because if you stay out, you'll be in traffic. If you come in, you'll be in traffic. So I don't really see much advantage or disadvantage, but it's just about these tyres and what compound you might need later. Are we going to see a change to the dries with still way over 10 laps to go?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be quite dry quick enough. I think they're only going to really get to lap 20 on the fuel, so I don't think in the next 7 laps we're going to see it dry enough. So you might as well use the same tyres. Therefore, it's just about using the splash and dash. And I think you are going to want to go as long as possible just to have that opportunity with the tyres if it were to come by some miracle. So I think we are going to be seeing the drivers go as close to that number as possible. But that is just a little bit of guessing game with how much fuel they're saving in these wet weather conditions. Of course, you're basically just on the throttle for less time because of the lack of conditions. So that is a very scary moment up the inside for the race leader on the 138. That is a very dodgy indeed, but it seems like they've managed to get away with that. This is Tidemo with the big damage on the Mustang.
It's gotten away with it, and Byfeld moves through with more than a second's advantage now over Eric Blixt out front, and they continue to wait for pit stops. In fact, we're still waiting for the top 20 to come in, and more than that as well. I'm struggling to look down actually and see anybody who's done what I would see as a regular length pit stop. Because we start on 50% fuel, and this race is going to be about 45 to 50 minutes long, I would suspect the stop to be within 10 to 20 seconds, maybe at most, in terms of how long they'll be stopped there. So at the moment, I'm only seeing pit stops 30 seconds or longer. Hagman's got the shortest stop I can see in the field at the moment, and he was in there for 30 seconds. So I don't think anybody's actually come in on a scheduled strategy yet at all.
I agree. I agree on that one, because a lot of the stops are very, very early in this race. So there might be a whole round of pit stops. We have to find out, though, just what the drivers want to do, but they probably don't even know what they want to do at this point in the race. It's been so chaotic. I mean, the gaps, we got 36 seconds to the top 10 in this race, so definitely a tough one for the drivers to predict, but also I'm sure some of these drivers, they have strategists or engineers from their various teams in their ears trying to work out what's best to do, but they're probably still running the maths, running the calculator at this half race distance to try and work out exactly the best way to get to the end. But one problem that we see now, as you mentioned a couple hours ago, Ewan, is all this traffic, and that, you know, there's so much variability with that it can really just change your race very quickly, and then therefore potentially your strategy.
That was Byfeld having a look up the inside of someone there into the final couple of corners as well. It's absolutely chronic traffic at the moment through the final corner for Blix. He'll close in, but then he'll lose that time as he has to negotiate the same traffic. Stralberg's getting some pretty bad look through traffic at the moment, to be honest. He keeps catching up to Eric Blix and then losing a lot of time because he's catching them second, I suppose, or third, and he's seeing a gap open in front of him through not really any fault of his own. On board with Stralberg. Meanwhile, there is the Mustang up in front, and you can see he's closing in again, but where is that going to lead him in the end? Lucas Lindqvist, meanwhile, passes Oliver Hagström-Vigezju for 5th place, and he's actually getting closer to the race leader. Now, I'm not suggesting that with 15 laps to go he could catch the race leader, but he is looking quick at the moment. Last time round, 51.8. That was pretty much exactly what Byfeld did, but generally he has been catching the race leader, whoever that has been. He's up inside the top 5.
Yeah, I think it's helped with a bit of traffic of the leaders and a couple of swaps of positions and stuff, but then at the same time he's getting through the field as well, and in a minute he'll have no one, just one more car to overtake, and then he'll have free reign chasing down the top 3. So I think you're right with all the variables in this race. He might actually have half an opportunity if some issues happen here. Oh no, there goes Byfeld. He's gone around. Was that to do with the traffic, or was it not? Oh, I got scared there for a second. You're right, good spot.
It is a McLaren, and it looks very similar to him, but it's not him. In fact, it's probably his teammates, isn't it? One of his teammates who's got around there. Sort of similar, multicoloured. I'm a big fan of this livery actually, but it's not belonging to him. It's Klaas Loden, who's gone for a spin, and he avoids the wall just about, but he goes further laps down. He's running way down the field at the moment, as you would expect for anybody being lapped to this stage. Although having said that, only 20 cars are on the lead lap at this stage of the race, but fair play to everyone who's still out there even after some very long stops. I mean, we've seen 15 minutes, for example, for Christopher Crooked, who's still out there on the circuit and just moving up to 44th. He's unlikely to score any points, but he is still going in this race at least, and most of the drivers are actually I was fearing actually when we were seeing a lot of early pit stops and a lot of long pit stops that would mean a lot of retirements, but that hasn't quite been the case, and there's plenty still out there on the circuit, as you can see here for Nicholas Hellman. Lucas Lindqvist battling away for 4th place, but primarily battling away with lap traffic more than each other.
Yeah, this is very awkward to try and find your way through, and it's just so difficult because you just want to push on, but then these drivers around you, they're in their own battles and they're not going to very easily get out of the way. Look at the amount of cars. We've got a front bumper flying on that Mustang just up ahead as well. This is really not what any sort of race leader would want, and Lindqvist is actually losing some time here, but of course this is now for position with the blue car of Helm trying to get that overtake stuck. The traffic wasn't able to help him get past, but that's a bit of a wiggle there for Helm in the 55, centered down the inside of the traffic. Is that going to open up the door though for the 97 to slide through on the pair of them? Not quite. Helm was slowed up though as he worked his way through turn 10 and 11.
This is surely going to be a slam dunk pass for Lindqvist in these next few moments in towards turn 11. He's looking half up the inside, maybe for a bit of visibility more than anything else, through the corner and avoiding the curb. There's all sorts of gravel and stuff being dumped onto the circuit there by that McLaren. That might be Klaas Loden, who we just saw in the wall. Through turn 12, Helm is holding on for the moment, but now that there's less traffic, he might find this is a bit more difficult to keep Lindqvist behind. Let's wait and see. Looking up the inside again here. Again, not able to do it through the final corner. He's going to want to try and get this done as quickly as possible for the outside chance he could get on the podium, but I personally think there's not enough time left in the race anyway for the amount of margin that there is there.
On pure pace, yes, that will be very difficult because looking at the similarities of the lap time, that's not what you want, but he's got the run here on the inside of Nicholas Helm easily there through turn one. Helm not having the run that he would have wanted at that part of the track, and Lindqvist up there into fourth place. And I would assume he's going to start putting a little bit of a gap, but we are getting this drier line, Ewan. It's very, very tempting, but I don't think enough for anyone to even consider the dry tyres because there's still way too much spray. But it's a shame because by the end of the race, if there's no rain, then maybe.
Blix and Strauberg have been going side by side for a while, by the way, and Strauberg is through to second place. So, and now he's not through. Well, we'll find out what happened. I guess he went down the inside for turn 8 and then broke too late, and Blix got him back on the exit again, I would have thought. Evan Forsen just coming to YouTube chat, by the way, to say that his PC crashed, which is why he is out of the race, and he is remaining out of the race, unfortunately. So, I say, this will become his drop week, but not a great start to the season, really, for the IndyCar champion.
Yeah, imagine if that happened back at Indy when he was chasing down, I think it was a podium or something, wasn't it? Like a second place that he needed on the road. He really had to chase a lot. As Blix comes in from second place, Blix is going to come in. Will he fix any of the damage, or is he just going to say, screw it, let's just take the fuel, gas and go, and try and get to the end? So he's got 17 laps. This is the lap we were told on dries, but of course it is wet, to use a bit less fuel, so a lot of drivers continuing on.
Yeah, is he going to put dries on as well? I'm very interested to see if he goes up on the jacks here. And he does.
Ooh.
So, does that mean he's putting on dry tyres or not? I have difficulty trusting the timing screen a little bit.
There are some dry tyres out there.
Yeah, I was thinking that. But are they actually out there on dries, or are they just erroneous markers?
Well, one of them's his teammate. One of them is his teammate, Jonas Gunnarsson. So let's have a look. Yeah, Blix is on dries. Blix is on dry tyres. 11 laps to go, well, 12 including this one. How is this going to work out? Because it's definitely not dry. It's drier, but it's not dry on the racing line.
It is not. Although Gunnarsson did set his personal best last time round. It wasn't as quick as the leaders, but it was a personal best. So let's see him compared to some of the others here. Eric Blix, note that down. 38 seconds off the lead going into the... And he's catching already. Maybe it is tied for dries, and that dry line is enough just in the background. Look at him roaring through at the moment. He's not really going to want to go down the inside on the wet line here, down here, but he is gaining time at the moment, unless it is the leader losing it. Meanwhile, there's one of the Porsches gone on for a spin. Who's gone around to the exit, probably just spun it up, I would assume, on the power. And talking of spinning up, that's actually what Blix really needs to look out for. He was already sliding the rear end on the wets. Oh, that is way too deep for the Sim Race Sweden car. And there's Marcus. Oh, he went way too wide. Came, he spun across. That was Lundberg, wasn't it? Sorry, Lundqvist, third place as it stands in front of Nicholas Helm. Beifeld has come in to react. Is he going to be taking the dry tyres as well? It's time. Strauberg's in as well, unless they're all out of fuel, which is possible. It's time. Does Beifeld come on the jacks? He certainly does. Will Strauberg do the same? I would imagine so in the Porsche, just a little bit further down the pit lane. So 4 tyres for Beifeld is going to cost him 20 seconds, but the fact he's reacted straight away means that Blix hasn't been able to take quite as much advantage as he was hoping for on those dry tyres. What's the time in the box going to be? Because for Blix, it was 21.6. For Beifeld, it's only a few tenths longer. That's not too bad. He'll get out ahead of Strauberg, who's also changing the tyres. Is he going to get out ahead of Beifeld Blix here? No, he isn't. Out through turn 1. Is he going to be ahead of Strauberg? Oh, very nearly. And that could be an unsafe exit. He's just gone over the white line there as the Porsche was trying to get back up to speed. Blix is now on the outside line, and it looks like he is going to get second place. He's got warm tyres, and he just jumped Jo Strauberg again.
Yeah, unfortunately, they just dropped too far behind Beifeld before that pit stop, so not enough to really challenge. God, we are getting a really dry line, aren't we? The sun is out and the track is drying lap by lap. This is good news for those who are taking those dry compound tyres. Oh no, a car spun in front of them, managing to get out of the way before the leaders come through. They probably looked at the relative and decided that was the best form of action, but Blix really is quite far behind. Beifeld has got this race covered if he can keep on that lighter grey track and of course get those tyres up to temperature quickly.
I think it's worth noting that the time of date in Sim is not the same as real life at the moment. This is the 11th of May in Sim, the middle of the day as well, by the way. It's just past 12 o'clock at midday, so this is right as warm as it would be at any time in the day in May. So the track conditions might be able to dry a bit quicker than what you would normally see at this time of year in sim. So maybe that's playing a role as well, or maybe it would have dried anyway. But it is 5 seconds that Byfeld has got now. He's made the right call there, responding to Blix immediately. And now he looks surely like he's cruising to a win. Are the others waiting for something else here? I don't know, but we'll see. Byfeld is the first of those who's pitted, though, and he will now move up to first place because the top two have come in.
There's Batman getting past Pedersen. We've got a few drivers obviously coming down pit road, as this is really definitely the opportunity. I said around lap 20 or so you would expect, and from what I can see, loads of not everyone, but almost everyone who's coming down pit road is taking the dry compound tyres. The majority are, so they're taking that risk. They're following the advice of their competitors at this point in the race. I think it is actually the right choice, to be honest, with the amount of laps that we have left. And as you see on the forecast, Ewan, I'm not expecting any more rain, so it's just going to get more dry and more dry as the race goes on. And the lap times are definitely coming. I mean, Blix just did his personal best on that previous lap, almost 2 seconds faster than what they were doing before.
And the times are only going to accelerate from here. The fastest lap point, by the way, is well up for grabs now, with the track conditions drying out. So wherever you are on the field, that is absolutely up for grabs in the final moments. Here is Oliver Hikes and Biggershute just out in front of Lucas Lindqvist, who's still in behind some of these guys. He's actually got jumped by quite a lot of people, and so he's got to regain some of these places again. Now down in towards the hairpin. He's on the outside and he will get through and indeed passing one of the Mustangs as well. 6th place for Lindqvist at the moment, and that's Wallin just up in front. I'm not sure Wallin's on dries. He is on a shorter pit stop than everybody else, and as my timing screen is showing me still on wet tyres, and it certainly looks like it at the moment. Lindqvist goes straight through.
So it might work out, though. I mean, if he says about 20 odd seconds, but then if they're losing 2 seconds a lap with 10 laps to go, that is the 20 seconds. So it's a bit of a risk for him to stay out, but he's going to try and hold on to that track position. The problem is, especially by the end of the race, with those wet tyres being so worn, he's not going to have anything to defend from the drivers around him. So it's a risk, but I don't know if the maths is going to quite work out in his favour. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of the white tyres coming over the blues on the timing screen. Almost everyone in the top 20 apart from Wallin, and the other driver is Bagman as well, who also pit about 5 laps ago. They are the only drivers in the top 20 on the wets.
And they have made the wrong call by all accounts by staying on those wet weather tyres. He did save 5 seconds, by the way. Wallin and Bachmann seemingly showing that 12 to 15 seconds is all the fuel you need, but you need 20 seconds to change all 4 tyres. So that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. Byfeld is rocketing out front, by the way. Last lap, 45.1. It didn't count the ad-hoc track, but there is the spin. Just in front of the guys for second place. That's part of the time lost for them, but in normal action anyway, Byfeld is quite a lot quicker than them. He's over 10 seconds out front now. It's Andreas Johannesson spinning it up on the curb on the outside. Oh, good avoidance from Joel Strolberg especially.
So close to taking out some of the leaders in this race. Oh my word. But let's talk about the lap times at the front though. Last lap, Byfeld a 45.1, 2 seconds faster than Blix, doing his personal best of a 47.1, and Strolberg a 47.0. So Byfeld is absolutely romping off in the distance. 11-second lead. Of course, now that it's dry weather as well, Blix damage will be coming very more apparent. So Byfeld definitely has this race covered at the front, and with those 7 laps to go, he is going to be enjoying that one. Oh, who's gone off? Can barely see Nicholas Helm from a top position, who's looking at 4th place at one point. He's now going to be dropping further down and risking going outside the top 10. Oh, he's towed back to pit as well.
Oh, that is really disappointing for him. He was actually in a zone. Oh, has Blix got off through 2nd place? Eric Blix has got off as well. I'm not sure he did repair any of the damage through the pit stop, but if he did, then he's just done some more out of turn number 1. It looks like he's got suspension damage as well. That car doesn't look healthy to me. Let's see what happened to Helm first. It's up over that curve on the outside, and the outside of the track is still very slippery. He's hit the wall pretty hard. And Blix on the outside of the circuit also sliding his way towards turn 1. Was it just a spin? Or was there something more here? No, it was just a spin, so maybe he was just fighting with the car anyway, and it's not damage. There's just little zones of wet tarmac on either side of the dry line. If you get into one of them, that's what can happen. Two examples just there.
Yes, and now he's trying to get past some traffic as well. Very awkward. He was trying to take the risk into turn one, but as soon as you touch that curb that's still wet, as you say, just goes for a spin, and that really, I think, resets him in that third place. He's not going to be able to catch down Stralberg. His car is way too damaged. Side by side, we are going over Bohlin up the inside. Biggiju on the outside. Bohlin on the wet tyres, still trying to hold on. Biggiju trying to come through on the dries and trying to make it work. He's up the inside through the kink. They should have this one done. I don't know if Bohlin is going to have enough to hold it on the outside. Biggiju just squeezing his way through, and in that pink and gold McLaren able to get himself up into 5th place.
Yeah, I think about your point about losing more time on the circuit than he would have done just biting the bullet and pitting for a second time is probably proving to be the correct one at the moment, because Bohlin is now losing more than 2 seconds a lap over the course of 10 laps. That gap is going to balloon. He is going to be out, I would say, outside the top 10 by the end of the day, actually. Unless he pits, in which case he might be out the top 10 as well. So it's a lose-lose at the moment. He's made the wrong call here. Bugman, unfortunately, has made the wrong call as well, by the looks of things, in number 119. Although he is doing quite a good job of holding people back in the last few moments. He has just let Daniel Holmer pass, but he's been doing quite a good job on the wet weather tyres. Just not the tyres to be on. There is the race 1 winner, Lucas Lindqvist. He's still 4th, so a bad day or a bad race has been recovered quite well, really.
Although remember, at one point he was 20 seconds off lead. He's now 39, so he's still lost a lot of time at points. Byfeld's pace is just absolutely ridiculous at this point. Stralberg is actually matching Byfeld's pace, but Blixt, of course, just cannot get anywhere near, even on this lap, and he's over a second slower just on the first sector alone. So Byfeld really struggling with the damage in that car, and now that it's dry, that is being exaggerated. You mentioned about Bohlin and Dallander catching him for Bohlin to drop outside the top 10. Looking at the maths with the 6 laps to go, I think he should be okay actually on the laps. He might get down to about P8 though, but I think he should be okay for the top 10.
Yeah, but I think his losses per lap are going to balloon quite badly, actually. I don't think this rate of losing time is going to maintain like this. I think it's a bit of an exponential curve that we're very much towards the bottom of at the moment. Like you mentioned earlier, his tyre temperature is going to be obscene by the end, and they're going to be useless, those tyres. So I would think he's going to lose a lot of time very late on, but we'll see. Hopefully he can hang on to the top 10, because he's had quite enough problems already. It did spin from the lead, don't forget, earlier on in the race, and it feels like a long time ago now, but he was leading this race and spun from the lead through turn 11 about 20 laps ago now, so certainly been through it here so far. That was Byfeld very near getting hit by his teammate down in towards the hairpin. He is now leading, though, by over 15 seconds and very much in control, actually. These sort of changeable conditions and these drying conditions certainly seem to be suiting him for the moment.
And he's now done a 41.7, by far the fastest driver on the track. Meaning Bohlin, we're saying about the wets, he did a 46.1, 5 seconds a lap quicker. And this is almost 10 seconds quicker than what they were doing just before the pit stop when it was still wet. It really is drying up. We're getting close to full dry weather pace, to be honest, just a few more seconds before we get there. So this is really the right call to go on those dry weather tyres. It's dried up rapidly with the sun coming out over the circuit. By the time we get to that final lap, I think it will be basically full dry weather pace. So perfectly timed actually with the fuel tank size and everything like that. So really well done to the weatherman for choosing that. But Byfeld is still by far the best driver, but I think it's also because I think he's got a clean car, to be honest. I don't think he got caught up in any of those first lap incidents, whereas everyone else was going off left, right and centre, and there's a lot of damaged cars out there.
There certainly are, yeah. Wearing the battle scars of the day here in race number 2. It couldn't be more different, could it, from race 1? No, enjoyed both races, but for different reasons, certainly. Race 1 was more of a pure motor race, you would say. Much less incidents. Good race out front for the lead, although Byfeld couldn't quite get past Lindqvist and quite give us the battle we were hoping for on the last lap or two. And this race has been very, very different. Lots of incidents, lots of crashing, unfortunately, but lots of overtaking and madness in between as well. So 2 good races to begin the season, but for very different reasons indeed. And there's still 5 laps left to go of this one just yet. Marcus Beifeld currently leading the way by over 16 seconds. He's, by the way, lapped everybody up to P11. Friska's in 11th place at the moment. He's got over half a minute back to Lucas Pettersson, so it probably is going to be 11 finishing on the lead lap, but that says enough in itself as well over the course of just, what, 30 minutes odd? No, a bit more than that, sorry, 45 minutes or so. He's managed to put everybody, apart from 11, laps down at the moment. That is shows you everything about the difficulty of this race so far.
I'm checking on the Bohlin and Delander situation. So this is about Bohlin on the wet tyres dropping outside the top 10. You are right, the drop-off is heavy, and now the maths is in the favour of Delander actually getting through. Side by side we are. Lundqvist trying to make some battles. He's got the rear wing back on that car, and with some optional repairs in the pit stop, and it's actually working for him up inside that top 10 as Delander gets around Backman as well. So there's now basically Backman, who's the top 10 car that Bohlin is looking out for. These drivers are going about 3 seconds lap quicker than Bohlin, who's up the road by about 15. So in 5 laps time, actually it might be a last lap battle, but as you say, I think Bohlin's going to get slower. But in 5 laps time, it will be right there.
We've put the rear wing on. Does anyone fancy the front bumper? No, never mind. We'll leave it.
Too many bolts. The rear wing's just 2 of them.
Don't know why they prepared half the car and not the other half, but never mind. That just made me chuckle. He's 8th place for the moment, Lundqvist, and doing a decent job actually after problems earlier in the day. I think, Bohlin is going to stay in the top 10, but he's not going to be quick at the end here, unfortunately. Backman is 6 seconds ahead of Frisk. That is too many laps to go for him to really hang on there. There's still 4 laps remaining in the race, up to lap 29 to end the second race of the season. The Area 1 Grand Prix here from Hockenheim, here the opening round of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series in 2025, and we've kicked off the season with a fantastic start. Fredrik Dalander was on the pole position to begin with, now down in 9th, finished in 10th in the first race, so I think 2 top 10s will be pleasing enough for him. And that's where he'll be in the championship standings at the end of the day as well. But at the front of them is going to be Marcus Beifeld, who finished 2nd place in the first race. Looks like he's going to finish 1st in the second. Adam Lundqvist was 3rd in the first race, 9th in this one. He'll be around there in the standings. Lucas Lundqvist 1st and 4th by the looks of things, as Bohlin now has lost a place to Holmer. So this is getting worse, and I thought Bohlin had actually been off. No, he just lost a place to Holmer, and now he's actually being unlapped by people as well.
Yeah, he has got a 10-second gap, so his pace is now in the 46s, and Beifeld at the front is on a 40.2, so 6 seconds a lap faster than Oliver Bohlin. That is incredible, and I'm pretty sure Bohlin probably would be in a better position if he pits, ironically, but he's committed to it now. No point pitting, 3 laps to go. So if he can lose, so he's got 14 seconds, so he needs to lose about 4 seconds a lap to Backman or Delander, and at the moment he's doing about just shy of that, so he might be okay. Of course, really to drop outside of the top 10, it's Frisk that he's looking at, but that's another 4 seconds, so it's right on the limit, but I think he will end up probably 10th.
I think so, yeah. There's some very big gaps outside the top 10. As we were talking about earlier, Frisch to Pettersson's nearly 30 seconds. Even further down, Janssen to Loden is over 40 seconds, as there's a change between Lundqvist and Dalander. So, well, not a permanent one. Lundqvist gets back in front again for 8th place. But further down, Rice and Hagman are over 30 seconds apart. Hagman's got over a minute and a half, so yeah, some very big gaps back down the field. Dalander again on the outside line in towards the hairpin, and it's going to go for the up and under here on Lundqvist. He's not going to manage it quite there, and if these two do this, then maybe Bohlin is going to be safe from these two for the end of the race.
Yes, potentially. We'll have to see how it goes. The race has very quickly come to the end, though. That mid part of the race, such craziness with the pit stop and the drying track. I mean, you have to remember, lap 1 was like a monsoon. People couldn't keep it on the track. Almost every car was having an incident, apart from basically Marcus Byfeld, who's got back up to the front. Pretty crazy scenes, and there's still some spray out there on the track. It's not a fully dry track, but around the outside, DeLanda may be thinking about it, trying to find a way past as they come on to start their penultimate lap.
Yeah, it's penultimate lap for these guys. Byfeld started it over a minute ago, by the way. He won't be too far away from the back of these guys and indeed lapping them, but he won't get there quite before the end of the race, around the final corner for these guys. And it's, meanwhile, a side-by-side for fourth place. I wasn't expecting Lucas Lindqvist to be caught, but Oliver Hoekston-Vigezju is now catching and passing him. Last time round, over a second quicker. Not really sure what's happened to Lindqvist here, but he loses fourth place, fair and square there in a normal battle. This still for eighth place. Lindqvist hang on again through turn 2.
Yeah, their pace has dropped off, so their fastest lap times is only a couple of tenths slower than Byfeld, but their recent lap times are about a second and a half. Pretty crazy scenes. Final lap time, let's see how this one works out. Of course, it is actually the penultimate lap that these guys are on. Dallender, though, round the outside, trying to make it work. Oh, contact is being made, and that might be a Skittles moment. No, the 67 managed to keep it, but Dallender is going to have to get the up and under on the Mustangers. A big move over to the right-hand side. These two need to be careful. Do not take each other out. No flashing headlights on the Mustang as we work our way through the kink. Side by side they go on the brakes from the 67. Someone surely is going to have to get no, in the end. He's taking each other out. Onto the grass the 67 goes. You saw that coming from a mile away, and both of them are going to be out this race.
That had absolutely accident written all over it from a mile away. Lundqvist into Dallender, both of them out of the race at the very end. You could see it coming. Not sure really why they got so riled up with each other so quickly, but it's the end of a long race, and those two will be having a stern talking to by Linus, I would have thought, at the end of the day, because those two driving into each other way more than you'd expect in one of these battles. Meanwhile, Marcus Byfeld has bided his time perfectly in this race. Was maybe a bit passive in race number 1, but he took home a second place, and now he's about to take home a race 2 victory and a championship lead out of the Area 81 Grand Prix here at the Hockenheimring. Through the final couple of corners, and Marcus Byfeld wins race 2 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series here on the Hockenheimring. Flashes the lights, weaves across the line. He will cross the line with a winning margin we're unlikely to see again throughout the remainder of this season.
Yeah, it's going to be about 27 seconds as long as Strawberg can keep it on the track, and it will be Blixt taking that podium in behind. But it's a long way, and you never know, they could spin in the final couple of corners. We're seeing a couple of moves as well, Pedersen and Gran for P10, but they're actually a lap down, so only 9 cars on the lead lap at the end. This is Gunnarsson in the 33 car. He's been having some interesting issues all day. He's one of the first drivers to crash at the start. He's all the way down the field. Terrible start to the season for him, and there's going to be a lot of drivers out there, I think, slightly disappointed with their race, and I'm sure they're going to come back fighting at the next round at Daytona. But also, Ewan, I think there's going to be a few penalties being dished out.
I would have thought so, yeah. There's also about 15 drivers who have crossed the line here today, not having scored any points in race number 2 either, despite getting back out onto the circuit again for the very end of this race. It's good to see that they've got back out there onto the circuit, but it's pretty disappointing that they won't score any points. I don't believe there are any more battles to really watch over the line here. It's just a number of drivers. Most of these guys actually are on different laps compared to each other. Here coming over the line, so none of them really in fights for the moment. Through the final couple of corners, Porsche versus Lamborghini here. Don't believe this is for position though. Over the line, as nearly everybody has been now. By the way, to give you an update, only 9 finished on the lead lap at the very end because of that incident for Dallender and Lundqvist. both of whom are going to have a big talking to by the stewards at the end of the day. It's Marcus Byfeld who wins here by 28 seconds ahead of Joel Straberg, and Eric Blix joining them on the podium. Oliver Hagström-Viggers, who got past Lucas Lindqvist towards the end there, who really dropped back. Daniel Harmer finished his sixth. Of Bohlin, who soldiered on with those wet tyres. Jock Frisk and Andreas Backman, who also soldiered on with the wets, finishing in ninth. Lucas Peterson rounding out the top 10 in the end. Joining him 1 lap down was Nicholas Grahn, Philip Hahn, Jody Helsing and Linus Hellberg. Adam Lundqvist eventually finishing 1 lap down as well after that crash with Fredrik Dallander. Pontus Vested and Andreas Johansson were also 1 lap down. Klaas Lodden and Jonas Gunnarsson were rounding out the top 20. Gunnarsson, one of the first to go on dries, of course. Joining them 2 laps down were Emil Reinbach, Christopher Dalston, Pontus Nordgren and Lars Reistad. Marcus Hagman was the only one 3 laps down, ahead of Dan Sigurdsson, Hakan Schott, Rickard Everton and Sebastian Titmo, who were 4 laps down. Nicholas Helm rounded out the top 30 after that pretty late crash from 4th. Christopher Geros and Johnny Matson were also 5 laps down. Christian Gantz, Thomas Kinnell, Sebastian Magnussen and Oscar Johansson rounded up those 6 laps down. Marcus Tiller was 7 down, Robert Eriksson 8 down, Andres Hillström and Patrick Pfeffer rounding out the top 40. Also 9 laps down with them was Christopher Crook, Bjorn Broström, Simon Green. Obviously Janssen finished in 10th place. Then those many laps down after retirements in the first half of the race included Fredrik Forsell, Thomas Gustrin, Gabriel Nordberg, Edwin Falls and Kenneth Tier and Henrik Lindhoff, who were all retired during the wet weather period, as were Robin Ossand, Marcus Nielsen and Robert Carlson. We've only got Eric Blix waiting for us at the moment. He finished 3rd in the second race, and we can chat to him now afterwards. Congratulations, Eric, on a podium place here in race number 2. How did you find the wet weather initially to begin with in race 2?
I mean, I like shitty conditions, and I can't say shitty cars, but I like shitty conditions. But it seemed to have worked out, even though we went backwards there for a short while at the start. But it was a lot of fun, actually.
How was the call to come on dries? Because actually, of the front guys, you were one of the very first. We noted that your teammate, one of your teammates anyway, had been on dry tyres a lap or 2 before. Was there some teamwork going on there? Discussions between the two of you as to how and when to put on the dry tyres?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, he did. He tried it. It was sketchy in the hairpin, as it was still kind of wet. But I also felt like it's almost half the race to go, so we can't put another set of wet tires on, otherwise we have to pit again. So, yeah, we just put on the slicks and bite the bullet and drive around the puddles.
Absolutely, it was difficult conditions, I can imagine. What's your aim for the season in this case? I mean, 2 top 10s for you here tonight. What are you aiming for?
Actually, I'm probably not going to make any of the other races. I'm usually working on the night shift this week, so I managed to get home like 5 minutes before the race started. I got like, how many laps did I do? The 5 laps of practice.
Hopefully, at least we can see you in the Oval Series next week.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay, well, we look forward to that, even if this might be your last appearance in the GT3 Series. Thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, Eric, and we'll see you in 7 days' time.
Yeah, see ya.
Thanks very much. That was Eric Blix, 3rd place in race 2, and in the top 10 in race 1 as well. I think he was 8th in race number 1. Doesn't look like any of the others are going to come chat to us for the moment, Cam, but what a fantastic way to open out the season. Weather striking very early on, and 54 drivers eventually doing battle here tonight. Fantastic racing and a great way to start the season.
Absolutely, that was quite a spectacle. And of course, next time we go to Daytona as well. You know, a much bigger track. We're gonna have a lot of drafting around there, and a lot of cars going down into turn 1 as well, which is always a bit of an interesting situation. Tricky track in many ways, despite all of the straights.
It certainly is. And we look forward to your company on March the 20th. That is in 2 weeks' time from 8 p.m. CET. We'll be back next week, of course, with the first of the races from the playoffs in the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan Oval Series here on iRacing. Myself and Cam will join you for that one from 8 p.m. Central European time. Also, big thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight for the first round of the GT3 Series in the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan for 2025. This has been the Area 1 Grand Prix, Area81 Grand Prix from the Hockenheimring. I've been Jan O'Leary alongside Cam Roger, and Hugo Louise has been behind the cameras. For the GT3 Series, it's see you in a fortnight at Daytona. It's playoff time in the Oval Series in 7 days' time, though. Very much hope to see you then, but for now, we wish you a very warm goodbye.